Hey guys, it's Layla from Ignite, and in today's video I'm going to take you through some exemplar analysis on a poem that is taken from a sample paper for paper 1 of the HSC, which is on human experiences. Before I get into it, please do like and subscribe to our channel and click the bell for notifications. And if you're wanting some extra resources to help you through your HSC studies in English, check out our website, ignitehsc.com.au. But for now, let's get into today's video. So in today's video, I'm going to take you through some analysis on a poem which is taken from a past HSC paper. We'll look at the question and we'll go through the text itself, and I'll take you through an exemplar response. So by the end of the video, I'm hoping you'll feel more confident in terms of analysing poems and also know how to structure a response that is worth 5 marks, which is how much this particular question is worth. So if you're wondering where this content fits in terms of your HSC studies, paper 1, the human experience paper, is worth 40 marks in total, and half of those marks are drawn from comprehension. In my opinion, it is really the hardest section of your HSC because unlike your other modules where you can kind of prepare some content, comprehension is totally candid analysis. So going through as many practice responses as you can and really building those skills for analysis is really crucial to how well you do in this section of the paper. So here's our question. How does the poem convey a sense of dissatisfaction in response to human experience? And it's 5 marks. So if I'm in an exam, the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, 5 marks, we're looking at about 10 minutes. How much evidence do I need? How many quotes am I taking away from that text? So 5 marks, I would say then marks minus 1 is total number of evidence. So you're looking at about 4 quotes from that poem. And in terms of length, well, a 5 marker is now gesturing towards a more extended style response. So we're thinking intro, a couple of paragraphs relating to the question, so 2 points that you could raise in response to the question, and a short conclusion. So as I'm navigating my way through the poem, I'm going to read actively and try and think about what ideas in relation to dissatisfaction are conveyed and what quotes can I use to help answer that. Now, when we are looking at a question, it's also important to unpack what that question is really asking you. So when we look at the key term of the question here, we have sense of dissatisfaction. And if you've watched my other videos on comp, I've spoken about how it's important to not just restate a key term in the question in your topic sentence, but actually unpack it in a way that you actually add value to that key term in the question. So here, sense of dissatisfaction. You want to apply some kind of micro questions when you're looking at these key terms to draw out some meaning. Words like how, what, why, to what extent, or the relevance are useful in unpacking that key term. So I'm looking at sense of dissatisfaction. I'm asking myself when I look at the poem, well, why is the persona dissatisfied? Or in what ways are they dissatisfied with this particular human experience? Okay, so start preemptively unpacking the question before you actually get into the analysis to ensure that your response has structure, that you have ideas relating to the question, and you're also avoiding simply restating the question in your response. And here I've just listed the micro questions that you could apply to annotate the question, and that just adds on to what I was saying in the previous slide in terms of looking at those key terms and knowing how to unpack them to offer value in your response. Okay, so here's our poem. I'll take a moment to read through it with you guys. So, to a city where I'll remember nothing but a clump of yachts stuffed like Nenufar in every tiny inlet. To the heart of the world's palladium, to the sky coloured excessively, so sky blue over Shark Bay. All your red eye filters can't protect your citizens. My poetry's exposed in a dazzling glare, the notebook's white pages blinding, my tomato pink cheeks are pricking, goodbye Sydney. I'm tired of your multicoloured rosellas, fruit bats and cockatoos, except for the greens. I'm weary of your politics too. The immigrants are fed up with your cockroaches and scurrying rats. Farewell, blood-smudged pillow slip. My war against mosquitoes won. Now no one will say worlds collide. The plane takes off. Your horizon morphs into a blurred outline, off register in magenta, cyan and yellow. You'll notice as I was reading, I was getting quite out of breath, and I think the kind of rant-like tone that's conveyed is due to the enjambment. See how one line is moving on to the next without any punctuation? That really speeds up the pace of this poem and enhances that sense of dissatisfaction, to link back to the question that this persona is certainly experiencing. But moving on with some other points of analysis we could raise here. You'll note that the poem started with the phrase "to a city," and the technique for that is actually termed apostrophe. And as the poem continues, we notice that the persona is kind of like personifying the city, because they're talking directly to it as if it's a person they have this dissatisfaction towards. There is, throughout the poem, a very negative tone, seen in quotes such as "remember nothing," "stuffed," "excessively." There's lots of distorted imagery as well. The persona takes elements of Sydney's landscape that are typically quite beautiful, but instead, I guess, subverts them with this negative underpinning, with quotes such as "coloured excessively, so sky blue," and the reductionist final lines, "your horizon morphs into the three kind of harsh colours" at the end of the poem. As I framed when I first read the poem, I thought it was timely to raise it earlier on. There is that enjambment, right? The run-on lines, which increases the pace and almost invokes a sense of breathlessness on me as the reader, as I'm trying to rush through all of these negative opinions the persona has. It's also quite meta-poetic in parts. The fact that the persona is referencing their process of writing about their time in Sydney, seen in quotes such as "my poetry" and "the notebook," it enhances, I guess, our dialogue with the persona's process of accounting for their time in Sydney. By the way, just to frame, meta refers to any moment in a text where the composer is referring to the text's own construction or making a reference to that text type. So in the poem, the reference "my poetry" is highly meta. To give you another example, if that point isn't clear just yet, whenever a text is focusing on the process of the text being written, so for example, a poem about writing poetry, that would be a highly meta example. You may have come across meta-theatricality in Shakespeare plays that you've studied, where there has been a play within a play. Again, that's a meta reference because we have the text referencing itself within its content. All right. Symbolism, we have the reference to "my notebook is blinding," and the fact that the notebook's white pages are blinding are because the pages in the notebook are empty. They're empty because this persona has had nothing to positively recall or write about as they trace their experiences in Sydney. And of course, we have repetition in "goodbye," "farewell," in terms of letting go of Sydney to showcase how quickly they would love to leave, which again links to dissatisfaction. So, before jumping into the exemplar response, I just want to flag, as you're navigating your way through the poem, to answer that question on dissatisfaction, you would like to think about 2 points on dissatisfaction that you can base your 2 paragraphs on. So for a 5-mark response, as I mentioned earlier, you're looking at a 1 to 2 sentence thesis, which should encapsulate the direction of your response. And when I say direction of your response, I mean the ideas on which those paragraphs will be based. So, thinking about the poem, we could see the persona had a sense of dissatisfaction towards the landscape. They had a dissatisfaction towards the kind of natural aspect, the birds, the insects that were, I guess, inherent to the Australian landscape. They also had a sense of dissatisfaction towards the people, the politics. So you want to think about what 2 elements of dissatisfaction you could raise to organise those paragraphs, and make sure before writing that thesis you're clear on what those 2 ideas are, because if you are not clear, you're going to run the risk of having an inconsistent response, because you must note that those paragraphs need to be able to support what you have framed in that thesis statement. You also need to know that you have enough quotes to back up what you're going to frame in your topic sentences. So before even writing this response, a bit of thinking is required. So make sure you do plan before you start writing. As a side note, I would also like to say that I think in the exam, if you need to take an extra 5 minutes for the comprehension, so instead of taking 45 minutes, you bring it up to 50, that's well justified, because as you can see, there's quite a bit of preliminary thinking that goes behind answering each of these responses. And when you think about it, your essay for human experience, which is 20 marks, with the same number of marks as the essays in the modules for paper 2, wherein you have 40 minutes to answer them, it kind of makes sense if you do spend the 40 minutes on the second half of paper 1 and you take the 50 for comp, so that you have that thinking time and you've got very well structured responses, albeit under time constraints. Having said that, let me now show you my exemplar for this question. So for the intro, the persona conveys a sense of dissatisfaction with the human experience of travel in Sydney. This dissatisfaction is channeled towards the landscape and the people. So see, we have here a sense of dissatisfaction with the human experience of travel. So unpacking where the dissatisfaction is geared towards. This second sentence here has the effect of signposting what my 2 paragraphs are going to be based on, which is dissatisfaction towards landscape and people. Okay, so paragraph 1. This is established from the high modality of the opening line, to a city where I'll remember nothing. The fact that persona refuses to internalise a memory from their journey indicates dissatisfaction. This is reinforced by the symbolism of white pages, which are blinding. The words placed in square brackets here indicate that I've changed some wording in the quote to make it work for my sentence, and you can do that so long as you use the square brackets. Their emptiness symbolising a lack of connection. The notebook's blinding nature is extended to the glaring imagery which conveys lack of appreciation of landscape, such as the final lines morphed into cyan and yellow. These features combine to display dissatisfaction in the persona's human experiences in Sydney, directed towards the landscape. Second paragraph. Furthermore, the persona also directs dissatisfaction with the people in Sydney, such as seen in the statement, "I'm weary of your politics too." The emotive language in weary reveals the persona's sense of hesitation towards Sydney's people and their political views. The enjambment between the lines, "the immigrants are fed up," heightens the emotional intensity of the poem, which reads like a rant, exaggerating the city's treatment of their migrants. As such, the poem conveys a strong sense of dissatisfaction with both the people and landscape of Sydney. And you can see I've added the conclusion as an addendum to the second paragraph to wrap it up fairly quickly. I did draft these responses under time constraints, so the length is, I guess, a reflection of what you're expecting to do in the exam, albeit in handwritten form. But you can see that there are multiple links back to dissatisfaction throughout the response. One thing you really ought to note is that your frequency of linking back to the question is so crucial to how well you will do in your response. Every bit of evidence is accompanied by the technique. And you can see the structure is quite clear, and I do not contradict the thesis I put forward in my opening. Everything kind of flows through and justifies what I framed in the opening of my response. Okay guys, I hope you found that useful. What I'm hoping you took away is how to structure a 5-mark response for comprehension, how to do a bit of candid analysis on poetry, what an exemplar response looks like in response to a poem and a human experience-based question, and that you're just building your confidence and your knowledge of what kinds of questions you can expect to see when you go into paper 1 of your HSC. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and of course click the bell for notifications. And as I mentioned, if you want more resources to help you navigate your way through the HSC, if you want exemplar responses, content on your prescribed texts including form and analysis, check out our website. I'm sure you won't regret it. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you do like the content, subscribe to our channel and we'll have more videos coming your way.
That's right guys, thanks for watching, and please make sure you check out our online resource database. We've had a team of state rank achievers and heads of English put these together for you, covering everything from essay structures and examples all the way through to craft of writing and comprehension skills. So check them out at ignitehse.com.au, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.